So the 4 categories of CrossFit participant, these are your beginners. Because CrossFit is so complicated, it can take you up to 1 year to learn all the skills. If you're going 3 times a week, that's only 150 hours of CrossFit. And we know it's 10,000 hours before you have mastery. Next, the recreational CrossFitter, they've been working for over a year. So they have the skills and their tissues have adapted to the load. And then normally from there, they progress to a competitor where they're new to competition and they're just lifting probably heavier and pushing the intensity as they begin to compete more. And then we have the elite. You can see Rich thrown in on the right there. And they're just talented and robust. And these are the exercise mutants that the CrossFit community has found, where they are just incredibly talented, incredibly robust, and good at everything. It makes you sick, okay? Love to be that good. So what about my research and my audit? So for my research project, I did functional movement screening for CrossFit injury prediction in 100 recreational athletes. I also run a CrossFit clinic myself, so I've got 2 years of data that I can present to you that, and I've been working in CrossFit competitions for 7 years now. Okay, so that's a long period of time. So this was my research as well. So can functional movement screening be used as an objective marker to predict injury? That's a separate question. The answer was no, it couldn't. But what we're really focusing here on what's the evidence as well. So roughly 100 participants, 31 of them reported an injury over a 3-month period, but 41 injuries were recorded in total. That's so 31 people getting injured, or 41 injuries over 857 hours of CrossFit exposure. They're all on the same program. They're all participating 3 times a week. And you can see that shoulder injuries are by far the most commonly reported. 2 traumatic injuries, they were both wrist injuries, and there's an equal mix of male and female. In fact, there's more female than male here. So the limitations of all this research. There is a really limited amount of evidence out there. Okay, there's less than 30 papers that are, and even less of those are good quality. It's from a limited amount of countries, mainly North America, the US and Canada, obviously a few from UK and Brazil. A lot of them are going to be retrospective in what they're studying, and there will be a tremendous amount of recall bias in these injuries. A lot of these people filling out these questionnaires, they self-select because they are injured to fill out these questionnaires. There's no long-term follow-up done yet. The misinterpretation of significant delayed onset muscle soreness as injury, because it stops you participating in CrossFit, is not really what we're looking for in terms of injury. So the definitions of injury, is it just time away from CrossFit, or is it that you need to seek physiotherapy advice? So obviously more research is required, but I was quite surprised about how little research there is out there at the moment. So risk factors. So Montalvo this year says that if you're tall and you're heavy, you're more likely to get injured. Montalvo also said if you're a competitive athlete, you're more likely to get injured. Hack and Weissenthal say that if you're a beginner, you're more likely to get injured. Being male is a factor, and having a previous injury. Whereas the Brazilian study is saying that if you've been participating in CrossFit longer than 6 months, you're actually at more risk of injury from greater participation. So they're the risk factors there. So let's talk about my experience as well. I've just covered, because these are the ones I've got good data on, from the London Throwdown at the beginning of 2013 all the way up until the Rainhill trials last weekend. So there's I've treated about, in fact, it's more than this. There's some competitions that I haven't done, but these are the ones I've got really good data on. About 442 CrossFit competitors since 2013. Obviously, I've not included the recent stats. So if we look at these, what do I see the most of? And they are really, it's finger taping. Finger and hand taping. I see a lot of that. Normally, it's too late and they've blistered. But in the last couple of hours of any CrossFit competition are just taping people up, whatever they need taping as well. Because normally they've got to the final and they're just going to keep pushing. After that, it's shoulder injuries and low back, followed by knee. You can see the pattern that in competition as well. Taped hands, shoulders, low backs. Remember that some of these athletes are already carrying an injury before they come to see me. And this constantly varied nature of CrossFit means that the injury will depend on what they've got to do for that workout. So sometimes we might not see shoulders. Okay, in particular workouts, British Championships 2015, we didn't see any shoulders all day on the Saturday, but we did on the Sunday when obviously it's WOD specific. So these elite competitive athletes, we've seen 2 concussions. 2 girls knocked themselves out because they just continually doing butterfly pull-ups until they blacked out. That's dedication to the cause. Don't recommend it. We have seen an Achilles rupture, and we've had 2 episodes of people fainting, but that's the only dramas that we've seen. We know that the elite do get injured. So in regionals this year in the States, there were athletes declaring that there was a bit of an outbreak of pec tears, so pectoral tears, and it looks like this was from the kipping ring dips. And I'm not going to go into the speculation about why this happened because I don't have the evidence for that. I can only comment in the fact that these occurred, but nobody's written it up yet. So this is the competition that I've just worked at the weekend. As you can see, history repeats itself. Hand taping, the most common, then shoulders. Wrists was actually made it to number 3 this time, and then it's low back and then knee. So you can see it wasn't a huge amount of patients I treated, but you can genuinely see the similar pattern that emerges. So from my CrossFit clinic, I've just grabbed 2 years of injury data. So we've got 94 injuries with 300 hours of exposure. Most of these athletes training about 3 times a week, and you can see that the lower back. Okay, so lower back is definitely the most common that I see, followed by the shoulder, then the knee. So much of a muchness with regard to these patterns of injury. So if we compare the injury rate in CrossFit against, for example, basketball or football, okay, or running, okay, we can see that CrossFit, okay, here, between 2.4 and 3.1 injuries per 1,000 hours. Okay, so it's nowhere near some of these things, particularly things like basketball. Okay, so there's a lot of press around CrossFit at this very low injury rate. Okay, and we all love sport. I don't think rugby's up there as well, but just going to the gym normally. So just going to the gym normally in gymnastics has exactly the same injury rate per 1,000 hours as CrossFit. Okay, and that's important. And I really want you to take that home and understand that it's no more dangerous than going to the gym normally. And because I was treating military personnel before the popularity of CrossFit, guess what? We used to see similar injuries from people doing themselves a mischief in the gym and not training correctly. At least with CrossFit, there's a coach in the gym to try and tell you what to do. So what does that mean? So it means that CrossFit is no more associated with injury than going to the gym normally, according to the data. Okay, and it's going to be 1 injury per year if you train 3 times a week. So the risk of injury is dependent upon factors related to the quality of the gym that you're training at. There's a lot of athlete-dependent factors: motivation, sleep, hydration, nutrition, the list goes on. And good form is a product of the quality of the coaching. So although we're commenting about injury and CrossFit, we've got to remind ourselves that, CrossFit has maybe encouraged more people to get off the couch than other things due to its popularity. And when we've got physical inactivity as being the fourth leading cause of preventable disease, we should be encouraging movement on all levels. It's important that we've got focus on the bigger picture rather than just focusing on a specific training modality. So the take-home messages. So I think this talk has explained that the risk-benefit ratio of CrossFit training is comparable to other sports. In particular, Olympic lifting, powerlifting, and gymnastics, the components that CrossFit is made up of. And that these injuries are mostly mild and acute. While we have to say that there's some literature published on some significant injuries around that, the majority of the injuries are mild and acute. If you're a therapist treating a CrossFit athlete, you need to know what level they are there. Are they a beginner? Are they a recreational CrossFit athlete? Are they a beginning to do competition, or are they elite? We know that guys may be at greater risk than girls, particularly with the emphasis on over-competitiveness and this striving to go at the prescribed weight, which might be too much for them. We also know that tall or heavy participants are at greater risk, and that previously injured participants are at greater risk of a new injury. We have to bear in mind that significant delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, may be misinterpreted as injury, and that the shoulder, the low back and the knees are areas of the body commonly associated with injury, although these will be mild and acute. So, in summary, I think the evidence has pointed that CrossFit is no more dangerous than going to the gym normally. What is dangerous is bad coaching, poor movement, and your ego. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, there's my reference list. If you have any questions, please email me at bulletproofbodies1@gmail.com, or hit me on Twitter, Facebook, and don't forget to sign up to my blog site where you can get a free copy of my book, Don't Get Cross, Get Fit. I'd like to thank you for watching, and now you know the truth and what the evidence is saying. So there's no excuses now. Go and be active.